Well, Hillary Clinton won Monday in Iowa, but you wouldn't know it by some of the headlines on Tuesday morning. The New York Times writing, quote, Hillary Clinton campaign unnerved by Iowa, braces for New Hampshire. The Post, photo finish reveals shortcomings of candidate who once seemed invincible. Politico writing, how Iowa went wrong for Hillary Clinton. And CNN, did Hillary Clinton really win the Iowa caucuses? Today, coming to her defense, Dana Milbank of the Washington Post writing in a column, quote, Hillary Clinton won the Iowa caucuses. Let's cut her some slack. Tony Saig is Executive Vice President and Jamestown Associate and a Fox News contributor, and Simon Rosenberg is President and founder of the New Democrat Network and a former campaign advisor for President Bill Clinton. An interesting topic when you look at the headlines. Simon, is there a double standard? Was it overdone, the coverage for Hillary Clinton?
I don't think so. I mean, you know, look, I think both of these things are true. I think it was both a win and it was much closer than they wanted. I mean, if she had won this race, if she had won Iowa by 4 or 5 points, we'd be in a very different situation right now as we head into New Hampshire. She was ahead in Iowa by 45 points, and this race closed up. So, but I think we move on to New Hampshire now. I think she's going to be in a similar position as Bernie Sanders. She's going to close this thing up. It's going to get tight. And I think she's going to do much better in New Hampshire than a lot of people think.
Interesting. Before we move on to talking a little bit about New Hampshire, Tony, I want to ask you about this assessment in The Atlantic, which is a little bit more sympathetic to Hillary Clinton, saying this: the hype surrounding Sanders' near tie in Iowa conceals Hillary's accomplishment. Yes, his rise from obscurity was impressive, but so was Hillary's rise from 30% of the vote in 2008 to 50% in 2016 in a state where she remained ideologically vulnerable. Your thoughts?
It's kind of sad to see this type of talk because it's so devoid of reality. I think Simon actually, as a partisan Democrat, gave about as effective and objective an assessment, and I completely agree. I will also mention that the 4 headlines you showed came from what we on the right certainly consider part of the left-stream, mainstream media. So it's not as if this is a vast right-wing conspiracy. Look, Hillary Clinton was well ahead. Bernie Sanders is a much more flawed candidate in 2016 than Barack Obama was in 2008. So that comparison by itself is kind of silly. And the problem is the Clinton campaign leading up in the final days, they were up by 7 points in Iowa. They had clearly even indicated that evening they were expecting a big win. They had to hold out till very late in the evening to declare a 0.2% margin a victory. Don't forget there were also 6 coin tosses that decided some of the delegates, and she miraculously won all 6. So there's even now questions coming out of Iowa to her legitimacy. But her bigger problem is she will lose in New Hampshire likely. It might narrow. And then from New Hampshire till South Carolina, her firewall, there's 11 days where the dominant news cycle is going to be Hillary Clinton underperforming and losing in the first 2 contests.
That's a very interesting point. And Simon, I know it might be hard to focus after such a compliment from Tony, but do your best here.
That was part of my plan.
Because there are those that say Hillary Clinton should just skip New Hampshire. It's neighboring to Vermont, and don't worry about it. Go to South Carolina, where she has support according to the polls, and move past that quote-unquote firewall, where she can be successful. What do you think about that strategy for her?
I think in any presidential race, skipping a state or skipping a debate, for example, makes you look weak and ineffective. I think it had a real impact on Donald Trump in, skipping the debate, the Fox debate last week, impacted Donald Trump in Iowa. And I think Jeb Bush and the others who didn't really compete in Iowa, it hurt them. You've got to fight in every state, in every debate, to show you've got the toughness and vigor to take on this thing called the presidential race. So I think she's doing the right thing. And, look, she's still going to walk away with a bunch of delegates in New Hampshire. I mean, this is a delegate fight. She's got to go fight for every delegate. She's doing the right thing here.
Tony, what would a win look like, then, for the Clinton campaign in New Hampshire, being that Bernie Sanders is quite ahead in the polling, just like Marco Rubio looked like a winner to some coming out of Iowa in 3rd place? What would it look like for Hillary to win in New Hampshire?
Though unlikely, it would change the conversation completely. Don't forget that the Democratic caucus and primary process is much different than the Republicans. These are proportional contests the entire way through. Come March 15th, Republican primaries become winner-take-all. So when you look at Iowa and you see this bifurcated Democratic electorate where unmarried women are voting for Bernie Sanders by a 10-point margin, where young professionals and young people are voting for Bernie Sanders by significant margins, where progressives are aligning more with Bernie Sanders than Hillary Clinton, it almost doesn't matter when you think about it unless she figures out a way to reach this part of the Democratic base that clearly don't think she's an authentic and real representative of their beliefs. That's a longer-term problem.
Quick thought from you, Simon, before I let you go. What's your response to that? What do you think about that?
Look, there's no question that Bernie Sanders winning young people in Iowa by 70 points, right, 84-14, should send shockwaves through the Clinton campaign. I mean, this is the most important part of the new Democratic coalition, and she's showing enormous weakness early on. She's got to address that. It's got to become a major focus of her campaign going forward, no doubt.
Interesting. Simon and Tony, great conversation as always. Sure. Thank you so much.
And thanks, Tony. Thanks, Tony.
You got it, buddy. Happy birthday.